Josh Hart is the best role player in the New York Knicks, and nobody seems to be talking about this, as after some strange comments earlier in the season about not knowing his role, it's clear that Josh Hart has been the NBA's best role player next to the star tandem of Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, and we're going to break this all down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here, and real quick, guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel. 28% of viewers are subscribed. Let's get those numbers up, but let's talk about Josh Hart, guys. He has been the best role player in the NBA this season. In a league where there's a ton of good role players, such as guys like Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso, who are phenomenal role players, or even a guy like an Aaron Gordon, or maybe even Derek White, though he may have graduated role player status. But there's a lot of great role players in the NBA, effectively, is what I'm trying to say. And Josh Hart might be the best of all of them. Since this season began, Josh Hart has had the best NBA season of his career. He looks like an absolute monster on every part of the court. He's been an elite attack defender. His rebounding is as great as ever for someone his size. He's scoring better than he has been in a while, despite the fact that the Knicks have less opportunities for Josh Hart with the way their team works now. Josh Hart just fits this New York Knicks team perfectly, about as well as anyone possibly could, and it has led to him having the best season of his NBA career so far. And I mean, taking a look at Josh Hart's stats, you could see the man is just absolutely balling out. He's averaging a near double-double, putting up 14 points per game, 9 rebounds, 5.5 assists, which is a career high, by the way. We're also getting a steal per game. He's shooting 59% from the field, and he is shooting 30% from three. Now, his threes have not been great, but that's the one sort of weakness in Josh Hart's game. Though in the playoffs last year, we saw Josh shoot around 40% from three, so we know that when he gets it going, he can get it going, and that when he really locks in and gets his shots falling, Josh Hart is one of the most dangerous players in the NBA because he doesn't really have a weakness in his game. Josh Hart plays undersized better than anyone else in the NBA. He's 6'4", 6'5", playing a power forward role, but also in the era of positionless basketball, and the way the Knicks have moved to positionless basketball, with Karl Anthony Towns being the center and having Jalen Brunson, just having all of these two, having this duo right here with a mix of Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, and Mikal Bridges as your starters really pushes you into positionless basketball, and the Knicks have adapted well. Now, they're only 5-5. It's not like the season has been some massive success so far, but they are a team that's new. They're kind of newly formed. I mean, Mikal and Towns weren't here last season. It's going to take a minute for the New York Knicks to fully really get to who they're going to be throughout the season. It's not that surprising they've started slow, considering they've started slow the last 2 years also in the Brunson era. So we all know the Knicks are going to be fine. The thing is, when you look at the New York Knicks, obviously he's not the most important player on the team. But what Josh Hart has been able to do for the New York Knicks is absolutely mind-boggling. Now, last night against the Philadelphia 76ers, he had 14 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists. There's only 3 other times that's ever happened in Knicks history. It's the first time someone's on the Knicks has put up a stat line like this season. Look, the man just gets the job done. He does all of the dirty work. All of it. Like, he's just been a phenomenal player for the New York Knicks. This has been the case since he got here. The Knicks have instantly gotten better. And he's clearly someone who's just so valuable to this team. Remember when there was the time when people were questioning if he got overpaid in that contract extension? Well, it's evidently clear Josh did not get overpaid and that he can play power forward. Like I said he could when they signed, but some people, including a co-host I had back then, disagreed with me on that front, which was absurd, because Josh Hart can do whatever Josh Hart wants. The man has been downright phenomenal this season for the New York Knicks. He's been one of the most consistent players on the roster. It's been him and OG Anunoby, and sort of Karl Anthony Towns has been balling out in his own right. And this comes after Josh Hart has, he made some comments that he didn't really know where his role fit. And, I mean, Tom Thibodeau even spoke on those comments that Josh Hart made last night, saying that a lot of what he says, you have to let it go in one ear and out the other. He likes to hear himself talk. With that being said, I love Josh. Now, we all know Tom Thibodeau loves Josh Hart. He was playing Josh 48 minutes per game in the playoffs, essentially. Josh Hart didn't really sit in the playoffs because Tibbs understood the importance of having a glue guy like Josh Hart out there. He is as much of a glue guy as you'll ever find in the NBA because he does everything for you. There's not really a hole in his game. He's going to go out there. He's going to do what has to be done for the team to win. And Josh always says he's not here on the Knicks to score. He's here to get rebounds, play defense, and get assists. But he's also scoring well with those 14 points per game. The man just looks downright disgusting this season. I mean, he leads the NBA in 2-point field goal percentage. Second is Daniel Gafford, who's a center. Third is Domantas Sabonis, who's a center. Fourth is Onyeka Okongwu, who's a center. The only other guy in the top 5 is Bilal Coulibaly, who's just having an absolutely awesome season with the Washington Wizards. The guy looks like he's going to be a very good player for them for a very long time, so shout out the Wizards. Their front office is heavily underrated, but people don't realize that because they're still bad, but they're going to get better. The Wizards are really good at what they're doing, low-key. Their GM is very, very good at his job. But not as good as Leon Rose, who traded a protected first-rounder and Cameron Reddish for Josh Hart. That trade absolutely benefited the Knicks so much as they brought in a guy who has just been downright awesome for the Knicks. There's no other way to put it. Josh Hart has been as dangerous as anyone could be for the Knicks, and especially because he's not afraid to speak his mind at all. Obviously, the New York Knicks starting 5-5 has definitely been a letdown so far, especially with the new regime. We saw a team that was versatile, that didn't really have a hole in their game. We saw a team that is supposed to challenge the Boston Celtics as the best team in the Eastern Conference, and thus far, the team challenging the Boston Celtics as the best team in the East is the Cleveland Cavaliers, being 12-0, especially in a span where a lot of teams haven't even played 12 games. It's very impressive by the Cavs. Unfortunately for the Cavs, they happen to be a regular season team. I mean, you're never going to go anywhere with the fact that Evan Mobley and Jared Allen are not going to shoot threes, and you only really have 2 great scorers and shooters on that team, and your backcourt doesn't have any defense, but different conversation for a different day. Here's the thing. With this regime, we expected more than a 5-5 start to the season, and Josh Hart, who has no qualms about saying how he feels, spoke out on this and said, "We're just 10 games into the season. We've got all you in the media all crying about how we look offensively, defensively. Some people ready to pack the season in. Some people saying we lost our identity. We don't listen to it. At the end of the day, we know what we have, and it takes some fine-tuning." And Josh Hart is absolutely right. And look, the Knicks do have this new duo of stars. Having Jalen Brunson, who's obviously been here for a while now, don't get me wrong, but having someone in Brunson who's putting up 24 points per game with 6 assists, shooting 46% from the field and 38% from 3. We know he's a superstar. His numbers are good, don't get me wrong, but they are going to improve as the season goes along. They always do with Brunson. He always starts slower than he ends. His season usually ends a lot better than it started. I'm not saying he's starting badly. These are great all-star numbers, don't get me wrong. But Brunson has a tendency to be better in the second half of the season. He's been this way in Dallas. He's been this way in New York all 3 seasons. I mean, remember, Jalen Brunson was not an all-star the first season he came to the New York Knicks. But when he finished the season, it was kind of understood that Jalen Brunson should have been an all-star. It happened to be that his best basketball comes usually after the all-star break and into the playoffs, which, is exactly what you want out of a player, unlike some people. Paul George! But yeah, look. Also, on top of this, Karl Anthony Towns looks like an absolute madman. I mean, 51% from 3, 52% from the field, 24.5 points per game, 12.5 rebounds per game. I mean, while Karl Anthony Towns is balling out on the Knicks, Timberwolves fans on Twitter are calling for Julius Randle to be traded. Now, I love Julius Randle. I don't want to disparage him. Julius had a very hot start to the season where Towns didn't. Now things are kind of going the way that I expected them to go in a sense of Timberwolves have no spacing and the New York Knicks do, and it's making Karl Anthony Towns play phenomenal basketball. Not on the defensive end, but on the offensive end where we need Karl Anthony Towns to play phenomenal basketball, he's been playing phenomenal basketball. So it all works out, and Josh Hart just doing all this dirty work, being a phenomenal defender, being an awesome rebounder, not just for his size, just being an awesome rebounder, doing nice work on offense, putting up nearly 14 points per game. Josh Hart is everything the New York Knicks could have asked for and way more. There was a world where Josh had an underwhelming season because he wouldn't know where to fit in on the offense, like he said, and he didn't really have a chance to score, and he wasn't really taking too many shots, and preseason at all, he took like 1 over the span of 2 games. But Josh Hart always locks in when it matters most. He openly admits to not trying until it matters the most, so I think Josh Hart knows what he's doing and we should trust him. But I do want to know what you guys think on the matter, so like this video, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think on Josh Hart on the season. Have a great day, and go Knicks.